And a lot of people didn't know, but on the night of the premiere, the 14th, we actually could not show the 70mm in stereophonic print. Not because it wasn't there. It was in the customs, held up, and being emergency, you couldn't, force it out of them. You couldn't bring a court order against to get it out. It was, times were like that. And that, I'll go back just a bit in that time, before we go to the beginning of the film and tell you, because of this, when we started the film, we didn't know it's going to be such a big hit. Neither did we know we were going to release it when the emergency was on. So, when I went to England, London, for the 70mm work, both the sound and all the audio-visual treatments and everything. But it was at Technicolor. The film was being done at Technicolor, and Twickenham Studios was doing the soundtrack. So in my travels there was one bureaucrat in Delhi who got after us, wanting to lay down the rules and inquiring as to how things were being done. I do remember that we decided to have a show of the film. And at the Marble Arch in London, on a Sunday morning, it was traditional to show the film. It was going to release on the Friday. All London friends, and we called the embassy, invited the Indian embassy guys too. But when I spoke to one of them, I got a sixth sense telling me something's not right in the voice. This sounds like an emergency man. And I told my brother, I rang up Technicolor, I said, let's cancel the show. When I reached there in the morning to apologize to people, so many people you couldn't call at night and phone them, they were there to arrest me. That was the emergency. But they could not arrest me because the print wasn't there. There was a fine print clause that when the work was done in England, the film could not leave the laboratory only to be boarded on the flight and sent back to India. It could not be taken out into the city or shown in the theatre unless it was released through distributors being exported from India. Anyway, all of us in different spheres of life face these technical problems that this can't be done and that can't be done. So, and you know, in those, I do remember those times. If you were sitting in a restaurant, you would always look back and see, is somebody listening? Have I said something that somebody might misconstrue or draw some conclusion from? No. It was a trying time, but it was worth all the problems. The solutions also came just as easily, because the next night for the release, we had Mr. V.C. Shukla. He came down for the premiere of the film, and he called up this bureaucrat. He said, why are the prints still at the airport? He must have tried to explain on the other side. He said, sorry, if the print is not released in the next 1 hour, I'll release you from your job. And that was it. That was the advantage of the emergency. But it came out the next day in the theatre. We couldn't see it that night. We got it at night. The show had already started. And at 2 in the morning. The crew and a few people stayed back, and we saw the whole film all over again in 70 mm stereophonic sound. It was quite an experience. So here we are today, 40 years later. Since I started at the bottom, I think there's another way we can do this evening. Why don't I assume that all of you have seen the film. So why don't we start by you asking things? Because I've spoken about the film so many times that if you ask me anything, the same things that I'm going to say will all come out anyway. Why not we start with that? What do you say, Deepa? Can we do that?
People ready with questions, or shall I get it started? Please, we can hear you.
So, one thing I want to ask, in 75 it was released, we have heard in newspapers that it was not praised that much during by the print media. That much figure very strong. But over the period, it has become such an iconic film that it has become a benchmark in the Indian film industry. So what was it that during that time, because the emergency, or what was it that it was not very vital, get that much acclaim, or now it is getting...
I think there was no restriction during the emergency to criticize it. There was no emergency on that. No, it was not that. It was, I think, people had made a huge thing about it. The whole industry was, inside the industry there was so much talk of this huge film being made and so much money being, and they didn't say spent, wasted. So this is a ridiculous exercise. It will never recover the money. It can never be good. I know Jitendra flew in about half a dozen times into Bangalore going on his way to Chennai. Either going or coming, he would stop and say, what's happening to your film? I say, well, you just completed another schedule and I couldn't finish a scene. And he turned around and said, I've just finished a film. And 6 times he said that to me. He'd just finished 6 films during the making of my film, and he'd come up and down, and I was there still plodding along. We're doing this and that, and everybody thought this guy's mad. They had written me off as a lunatic who was just spending his father's money. Thank God my father never said anything. He always had faith in both the subject and me, that I would deliver. So, at that time when it was released, the critics, most of the critics panned it. Yes, it's true. One even quoted Shakespeare. This is a film full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And there were several quotes like that, but you shouldn't mind. Critics are meant to criticize. It was the trade pundits that harmed the opening of the film, as you call it. It's a complete myth that the houses were not full or that people came to the theatres after 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That is entirely untrue. Houses were full. Even for the advance booking of the film, the black marketeers were fighting amongst themselves to get hold of the tickets, and chakku chhuri chal gayi. It was that. So it's not like the film didn't open. It's such a big cast, even today, you know what happens if a Salman Khan film is open or an Amir Khan film. You know what happens. I mean, people go and flock to the theatres. So it was not that. But the trade pundits decided this film is a disaster, not just for me or my company or my father, disaster for the industry. How can you make such expensive films and expect them to work? That's what. And of course, whatever the reports came out, they said, a new guy opposite 3 huge actors, how can it work? It's impossible. So, there was criticism of an illogical kind also. Otherwise, I'm a maker, and I'll make my film. Critics are critics. You must give them the freedom to write what they feel. I personally feel even these pundits, they had to finally eat their words, and they had to write an apology, say we misjudged the film, we're sorry, it's the biggest hit ever, and they conceded everything. So but the fact is that from the first day, people were stunned because they had not seen anything like it. Whether it was technology, it was far ahead of its time. It's 70 mm, stereophonic sound. The queues outside Minerva kept increasing every week. A mile-long queue going round the corner and up the bridge and whatnot. All these things happened. Sorry? Yes?
What was the cost of the film? And
it was budgeted for
much
1
made out of it?
crore.
Okay.
My previous film, Sita Aur Geeta, had cost 40 lakhs. So I thought I'll keep a very big budget to make this film. I kept a budget of 1 crore.
Profit.
But by the time I finished, it cost 3 crores. In those days.
Profit.
Can we ask the profit?
In those days, we couldn't pay taxes. In those days, income tax was 80% and 90%. So don't ask me what the returns were.
Ramesh, there is one thing that since we mentioned the emergency, you had to shoot a different climax from what actually you
Yes,
couldn't show.
I'll come to that, the censorship part.
On
Good.
the sake of Amjad Khan, just tell me, it's a big man since 2011.
Sorry?
He was a youth.
Yeah.
How you decided on him?
Well, to be honest, we had signed, after all, considering a lot of people, we had signed Danny, then Zompa. He was paid a check also. Until today, he says to me, I have your check. Where's my role? When am I going to get that role? In good humor. But he got caught up with the shooting of Feroz Khan's Dharmatma at that time. So there was a clash of dates, and we were suddenly ready to start. So I can understand he could not come away and leave their shooting. It was in the middle of a shoot, so by the time we were actually shooting, he was caught up with that.
Shall I say something in this regard?
Yes.
What's my conclusion about the filmmaking? Nobody could have done the equivalent of what Amjad did. That's what is my experience.
Today, even if I say that maybe Danny would have done a damn good job too, nobody is going to accept it. Amjad Khan and Gabbar are one. You cannot separate the two. It feels like that, but you accept the person that comes on the screen. But I also agree with you. I was lucky that his dates were held up, and we had to look for a last-minute replacement. And because it was a last-minute replacement, we went for somebody new. And we really found somebody new who looked very different from everybody at that time. And then he grew into the role. He took time to make it his own, but by the time we were actually shooting, you couldn't separate the two.
This was the first time in the world, the dialogues were really crammed on the people like his songs.
It's true. Polydor, the music company, brought out his record only of dialogues, and it sold more than the music at that time.
Absolutely.
And there was a kind of mesmerizing effect. People would go to the cinema, enjoy the film, come out, play the record, again I've got to see it again. And they'd go back into the theater. Luckily, there was no piracy, no videos, nothing.